Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast where we explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 1 minute at a time. In this, our 4th season, we're looking at Kenneth Branagh's 2011 film, Thor. I'm Matthew Fox from the Superhero Ethics Podcast.
And I'm Andy Nelson from the Next Reel Film Podcast.
Today we're talking about Minute 62, which begins with Jane and Erik arguing about science versus magic, and ends with Agent Coulson wondering if Thor received his training in South Africa. Joining us on the show today, as every day this week, we have the hosts of Season 2 and Season 3 of the Marvel Movie Minute, Kyle Olson and Rob Kubasko. Rob and Kyle, it's great to have you guys back. What is it like for you two being on the other side of the table for a Marvel Movie Minute as guests, not hosts?
My God.
Oh, it's so
great.
I watched the minute once or twice, and I was like, yeah, that's good.
Oh, no, I mean,
you guys have the heavy lifting to do. I don't have to figure out what the type of car is or what the type of lamp is or what book is to find out what's on the page like you guys did. I just had to sit back and throw color commentary around. It's great.
Okay, I figured out what models of monitors there are in this scene. What are you talking about? Well, that's what we do. No, my God, it's so
I'm just
great.
Here for my sparkling wit.
It's so
Kyle,
great.
did you not pass on that email to Rob? We emailed you the memo that said you're guests, not hosts.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
It's old habits.
We're going to let Kyle and Rob argue about that while we play you all the promo. We'll be back in a moment.
We're really excited about what Discord offers as far as creating a community. We'd love to have you come join us. Rob and Kyle are in there. We're in there. We really want to get more people in on the conversation about all the stuff we love about Marvel. Head over to truestory.fm/Marvel Movie Minute and click on the Discord link. It'll take you right to our Discord group. You can join, become a member, and get in on the conversation with us. Again, head to truestory.fm/Marvel Movie Minute. All right, we're coming back in the middle of this argument between Jane and Erik about science and magic. Where do you two think scientists would really fall in this? Is there a line where magic is just magic and not science? What's Loki doing, or Doctor Strange, or these floating buildings we saw? I mean, where do you two land with this?
Ooh, that's a dang.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we're just the song and dance guys. Like, I don't know. That's a little deep.
We ain't talking about the direction of lamps here, boys.
No, I mean, like, okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, look, here's the deal. Like, I think, when you talk about magic, I think most of us understand that magic as an illusion, there's always science behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So everything, every illusion has something behind it that makes this happen, or, whatever. I think in this situation, though, and this would be sort of a theological view of it, is that whatever you can understand more about magic as a supernatural or something that is more godlike, the science allows you to more fully understand that God, right? Like that's in many great traditions and faiths, like that the more you understood doesn't mean any bad thing. It means that you get closer to the deity. So I personally, I believe that they go hand in hand. I think that's okay. Like they both can exist, and you can respect and understand and want to learn more about both. And as you should, people should be inquisitive. Ooh, where I don't know where that came from. I think I'm going to take another drink.
I think going into the fictional side of it, I think being a scientist in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a very different set of prospects because the rules are different than what we're used to. Even though it looks like our world, there are lots of other things going on that they would have detected too with all the scientific stuff too. So the even just their history of what they learned and the scientists, because the fact that people are citing Bruce Banner in their papers. There's a different set of history, a different set of rules, even that they know, even at this point in the world, their world.
To me, it's especially interesting because, and Rob, I'm glad you kind of brought up the idea of faith and things like that. We're going to talk about what Arthur C. Clarke actually meant with his quote in just a moment.
Yes.
But to me, what I go to when I hear this discussion is there's not like a one simple, easy quote, but a theme that has been talked about by more modern theologians for quite some time, especially basically since Darwin, is the idea of saying that, science and religion aren't enemies. It's that people turn to myths to explain the things that science cannot yet explain. And that it doesn't mean the myth was wrong when we do learn it, so that thousands of years ago, we didn't know how the sun moved across the sky, so a myth about a chariot came about. We didn't know how the earth was created, so myths about either 6 days or 1 day, which are both in the Bible, and I think it's intentional to kind of show that it's myth. But yeah, to me, this idea of like that there isn't a firm line between science and that which we call magic, it does make a lot of sense. And I think in both kind of whether it's science versus magic or science versus religion, and many people say it's the same discussion, and that's fair. I do think, though, that Jane is not quite using it accurately here. Or at least she's twisting it a bit to support the point.
Well, she's not. I mean, it's regularly twisted this way. I mean, this is regularly said, magic's just science we don't understand yet, Arthur C. Clarke. And that's not what he said. He had the Clarke's third law. It says any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And it ends up getting paraphrased this way. And it's not necessarily saying that. I mean, here's this write-up that I found.
It's all perspective.
Let's see if this makes sense. Yeah, magic is about appearance. A magician may be doing something we don't understand. There may or may not be a science behind it, but if the magician does this reliably, it's likely something is understood. Even if only how to create an appearance. I've seen phenomena reproducible that appear to be magic because they're outside of normal experience. However, if one has the experience, the science, i.e. knowledge, especially well understood and testable knowledge, the phenomena are not magic, they are technology. So that's kind of the sense of what Arthur C. Clarke meant. I think it's fine kind of, playing around with it in context of the film here, especially in a film that has science and magic in it, in a world that has science and magic. I don't know if Arthur C. Clarke really wants it being paraphrased that way in general, but I think in context of the movie, I think it's okay.
To me, this kind of highlights something that I wish the movie was being more consistent about, because on the one hand, it seems the movie is trying hard to say there's nothing religious or divine or magical about the Asgardians. They're just a
long-lived
society that is sufficiently advanced that it is indistinguishable to humans from magic.
Yeah.
But they also do have magic,
Right.
And they say that Loki has magic. Yes. And I feel like this part of it, that some of these debates maybe would have been a little stronger if they hadn't kind of blurred that line in the way they do, or at least explained the way they blurred the line. Because when they have debates like this, it kind of feels to me like the movie's trying to have it both ways.
Yes.
Well, yes and no. I mean, they're saying that they saw them as deities, and they're not necessarily that they, can't also be magical. So I think that they can get away with that.
Well, I mean, I guess to me it raises the question of, so does magic actually exist? Mm-hmm. Or is Loki able to tap into something that is so sufficiently advanced technologically that to the Asgardians it's seen as magic? Yeah. Is it all science all the way down? Or is it, again, give me a show. Disney Plus has spoiled me. I don't want movies anymore. I want 10-episode shows of everything.
Yeah, dig deep.
Terrible for me to say on a next real movie podcast network. But there you go.
Just wait till we start going through the shows 1 minute at a time. Oh boy!
I think it also is where they're at in terms of what they can expect from the audience. So, I mean, obviously this is very early on in what we know will be a long series. And I feel like there's always this hesitancy in terms of what will people buy. Like, it's not us nerds who are going to dig in and find every little nuance stuff too, but like, you're I don't know, is Joe Lunchbox, is that a derisive term? I don't know. I don't really think it that way, but the people who don't listen to these shows, like the people who just like go and have a good time on a Saturday night, watch a movie, and then they're done with it. Like, it's like, oh yeah, when another one comes out, I'll go see it, but I don't buy movies, I don't watch it. I mean, like that kind of thing. To have it be that's accessible to everyone there. And so when you've got guy in an iron suit, sure, I can understand that. That's technology. You have guy throwing a shield, yeah, I got that. When you have space god with a hammer, then you have to like do a lot more tap dancing to make it so it's not like, whoa, hold on, wait, what? So I think that there's a bit of that they are trying to play both ways, because I always have a thing too. So are Heimdall's eyes, is that technology?
Right.
Yeah.
Is Loki's illusion powers, is that technology? I know. What is each thing? I don't know. Yeah, but and they still, even after all these years, still there's really no thing that comes down that like Thanos isn't magic, but Thor is.
Right.
Okay.
And what's Doctor Strange doing?
Yeah.
This scene, because she does sort of twist the Clarke quote,
Yeah.
When I was reading again the history of Marvel Studios, they had this great quote from Kenneth Branagh about emphasizing how important Jane Foster was to the film, describing her as, and I'd never heard this before, not merely a love cipher, but a mirror held up to Thor's volatile nature. And I think in this scene, you kind of get that. Like, she's kind of a rogue scientist. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she
is, yeah.
And this speaks directly to that. So she's willing, even though, you know, I can make the case for both sides of this, she's willing to sort of bend the rules because she's following her heart, right? Like, she believes something. Right. And so you're seeing sort of that outburst. She's very passionate about this. So I think they try to do a couple different things here.
And the rogue scientist bit does make sense, because I was thinking about this when we were talking yesterday about this aspect. You know, we think of science as like, science is supposed to be completely objective, and you measure the facts, you study the facts, you accept the facts without thought, or without, kind of preconceived notions and the like. But the fact is that almost every major scientific development that has fundamentally changed understandings was rejected at the time. No spoilers here, but the TV show Midnight Mass, there's a major plot point that talks about how, for a long time, people, didn't understand how infections worked. And when someone proved how infections worked, they locked him up in an insane asylum, because which is bad terminology today. It still was bad then, but that's the terms they used. And so I was kind of thinking about that here as well, that like, yes, the rogue scientist is perfect because she's actually being the truest science of anyone there, but the scientific establishment is recognized by Selwig, which said, no, that's outside the bounds of good science, is just not able to listen to her.
Well, wait, and isn't the funny juxtaposition of this Galileo and like a Robert Bellarmine, where like Galileo's right. He knows he's right. But the way he goes about it is what pisses everybody off, right? So then you bring in,
and yet it
right?
moves.
So you bring in like Robert Bellarmine, and Robert Bellarmine's like, dude, can you chill out? Like, we all think you're probably right, but like, can you do all the things you're supposed to do, please? So, I mean, that's what's happening here. It's actually really neat.
By the way, as I'm sitting here talking about like the importance of like questioning scientific authority from time to time, vaccines are good. Vaccines are right. Get a vaccine, wear your mask. Don't angry tweet me. Yay. Move along. But can we also then talk about the brilliant comedy moment that happens when Darcy?
Yeah, and
yes,
and this is, I mean, I swear, more as I go through this film minute by minute, there are so many great comedy beats in this. And it's, I mean, Darcy and Jane, like, they have some fantastic bits. And this is such a funny one when Darcy pulls this bit about the Vikings, thinking that somebody who came through the Einstein-Rosen bridge could be, a deity. And Jane's reaction, like, thank you. And then she kind of like takes that beat and just like cocks her head at her, like, did that just come out of you?
Yeah.
It's so funny. Just these moments. Yeah. I love these characters, and it's just so much fun spending time with them.
Kat Dennings is a killer, man. She finds her moments and just pounces. It's great.
We've all talked about, I think, that one of the fun parts about watching this movie is that it's the origin story for so many characters who we grow to know and love who change so much. This might be my favorite moment in terms of that with Darcy, because Darcy is going to become the person who is always making those insightful comments, but also still in a very witty, off the cuff, drive everyone around her crazy kind of way. And so I just love that. Like, to me, there's a kind of wonderful story of like, Jane acknowledging that moment from Darcy, and Darcy being like, yeah, I can say the smart things. Okay, cool. I'll do this more.
But I love Jane Foster.
I earned my spot.
Well, okay, but I love you could take it one thing where she's just like, where did that come from? But I take it as that, how come you're not like this all the time? What are you doing? Anyway.
Well, but we keep talking about these origin stories. I mean, we have we were joking last week. We had the origin story with Hawkeye in this moment where he decides, nope, no sniper rifle. I think I'll try this bow and arrow out. So it's like there's Hawkeye's origin story, and now this is like, is this Darcy's origin story where she's like, you know what, poli-sci, maybe not for me. Maybe I do like this other side stuff, because as we see her in these later films, it's like she's clearly taken this path. So this might be the moment where all of a sudden things click for her.
If only we could get a TV show where we could get to learn more about that journey of hers, maybe with some other agent. Especially because I think it would be so within her character for someone to be like, yeah, so was it like that whole Thor thing that like got you thinking you wanted to go into science more because you actually were like much smarter than people thought? And her being like, yeah, but like, also is meeting really hot guys doing science, you know? Like, she is both. She is both the person with the great insights and the person who, when Jane was trying to, like, sneak a glance, she was just, like, popping some popcorn while staring at Thor's half-naked body.
Yeah, right. Totally. I just also, I have to just call out how funny Natalie Portman is here, because, I mean, she's carrying that scene too. And, you know, she doesn't get credited often as a comedic actress, but in that phone call she did earlier with Erik last week, and then with this, it's like, she knows how to do it, and she does it quite well, I think.
She ends up being the straight man all the time. Like everyone has.
Generally, yeah.
I think she can, I mean, in pretty much every role that they cast her in, but I think she can do both.
And then there's Your Highness.
I was just going to say that. Nope. All right.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, so we've got this moment, and that pretty much kills the conversation, because even Erik stops and looks like, did that just come out of you? Which is great. Just a great moment all around. And now we go back over to the S.H.I.E.L.D. crater base, and we see the holding cell. Actually, we're looking at it through the command center, where we see the command center, we see all the agents working, we see Agent Sitwell there, we see the techie there, a bunch of other frustrating S.H.I.E.L.D. agents that I just can't tell who they are. It's very frustrating. There are so many faces in here and so many shadowed people. I think Dale Godbaldo may be the one who crosses the frame, but I can't quite tell. Regardless, they're all busy working, and we see this great shot, Dutch angle, of Thor in the holding cell in silhouette, just sitting there. And we start hearing Coulson talking to him. Coulson is speaking to Thor, and it's an interesting conversation kind of to Thor about like kind of what Thor did. I mean, how do you all read this line of questioning that Coulson is asking? Do you feel like he's being serious with these questions? Is he trying to throw him off and intentionally sound more like CIA or government? I mean, do we think Coulson thinks that Thor came down with the hammer, which theoretically we know that they tracked from space? Where do you all land with this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's pursuing a line of inquiry, which even being an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., I don't think you immediately make the assumption that this man is from space. Even with his magnificent hair and biceps. He has seen aliens. So I mean, by this point, Coulson knows that we are not alone in the universe, but I don't think that he immediately makes that assumption. So I think he's working his way up. Like he's starting for this, like, basically, is there a cover? Because a guy comes in and whoops some ass, but I mean, you don't immediately go, well, clearly space god. So I think you start out from like, okay, so you're not one of our boys, so who is it? And then I think if we had seen it progress, I think we would have eventually gotten to that point where he was sort of like, finding out that he doesn't know anything about, Earth history, he doesn't have a cover story at all, and then you start getting into that stuff. That's my thought, at least.
I think that's a lot of it. I also think there's a good deal of wounded pride happening here from Coulson. Like, he has been very proud of S.H.I.E.L.D. up to this point in the MCU. And in both the first and second Iron Man movie, we had Robert Downey Jr., treating them like they're a bunch of mall cops, and them actually being incredibly competent. Coulson's also the guy who wears his emotions on his sleeve all the time. And so when he says, like, look, you treated my guys like mall cops, that's hurtful. For most anyone else, that's like a weird line or it's manipulative. I think Coulson...
Well, except for Kevin James, but I mean, whatever. Okay.
Well, okay. Again, I don't watch highbrow cinema, so I missed that one.
Right. We're just hitting all the highlights.
But I think he's being kind of honest. I think he's like, hey, I want to know because this is hard for me to deal with. And I think that's a part of it. I think he's being very honest there of like, he has come used to the, especially because like S.H.I.E.L.D. is pretty successful in, I mean, we don't know that when they're writing Thor, obviously, but like we can read it back in his character now from the Captain Marvel movie. Like, this is not how he's used to these things going. He's used to S.H.I.E.L.D. being in control. And I think I think he might be doing a kind of like, he might be trying to press him to the point where he says, what's all this Earth stuff? Of course I'm not from Earth. Like, I think you're right. It's not that he's assuming God, but he's kind of giving the guy the chance to say that. But I think he honestly just wants to know because he honestly just doesn't understand. Like, my S.H.I.E.L.D. agents are really good. How did you kick their butts?
Oh, actually, I'm going to go with your latter thing.
I don't think he's pissed off about it either. I mean, I think he's like genuinely curious, which is one of the great things about Coulson.
Well, no, but I actually do think there's a shade of this that no, he's toying with him in that I'm going to insult you by naming off all these Earth countries because maybe that's what it's going to take to light you up so that you'll just come out and give it to me. Because he's seen things. Yeah, I don't buy the whole he's seen stuff. They have a hammer that they can't extract from dirt. I mean, and this guy knows what it is and tried to. I mean, already he's probably he knows he's dealing with something else.
Well, I mean, we were talking about this last week. I mean, for all Coulson knows, this is just another drunk townie. I mean, the place was covered in drunk townies when he arrived. And so this could be one who just came back for one last round, for all he knows. But yeah, we did think there was something about the way that Coulson watched Thor as he approached the hammer with such kind of cocky assurity, only to kind of like be broken by this like act, you know, as opposed to just like, ah, damn it, and just like walk off like all the other drunk townies. And so it's interesting. And so, yeah, I do feel like there is something potentially there, not to mention, and we haven't brought this up, when Thor arrives, like all of the equipment goes awry. Like his connection to Mjolnir causes everything to go crazy. And I'm assuming that like Mjolnir like kind of shut that off when after it had its little moment with Thor and said and kind of winked the Triquetra at him. And now it's just like, you know, everything's back to normal and all the tech can work again. So maybe Coulson's piecing all these different things together. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
I do think I remember when the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show came out, after like the first season or two, there was a lot of discussion in the fan communities about like this Coulson seems very different than the one in Avengers. Because in Avengers, he was very naive and he was very straightforward. And the kind of deception we're talking about, which did not have seemed possible for the character in Avengers. And I wonder, it may well be that like just, you know, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., clearly he's gone to Tahiti. A lot has changed. So that kind of explains it. But it may also be like
magical place.
I feel like Coulson, being a character who had no basis in the comics, he was totally from whole cloth. It may also, part of what we may be seeing is just that the writers across these different movies didn't quite have all the exact same handle on him. And so, yeah, maybe he is being a bit like, I'm thinking of all his naivete from the first Iron Man and the Avengers movie and wanting to put it on him. But maybe, yeah, this is just a kind of different side that is a little more sneaky and underhanded that kind of way.
Although when he says that's hurtful, like that feels like straight out of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's exactly how he talks in that show. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a really interesting moment. It's an interesting conversation. And I also, you know, Thor's reaction, I think, says a lot. The fact that he really doesn't react. He's just looking down. He's looking away. He doesn't want to make eye contact. And I think that just speaks more to kind of hit this broken place of his. I mean, he's got a cut on his cheek, which perhaps might be the first actual injury he's ever had in his life. Maybe. I don't know. It's interesting just how like walled off he is at this point, and also not strapped down, which I didn't realize at all until I was watching these minutes. I'm like, oh, they just have him sitting freely in this room. That seems bold of Coulson to go in there.
Or smart.
You think? Because
you know what I mean? Like if they know, again, I will go from the theory that he knows he's dealing with something else and you don't want to agitate and he looks broken. We're going to take the play that, yeah, we're not going to destroy any more $1 million boxes, whatever other equipment. Yeah.
Well, and they're still here in their bunker, right? They're still here at the S.H.I.E.L.D. crater base. They're just now, I didn't even know they had a holding cell, but apparently that's one more truck that they brought in, I guess, just in case. It's the just in case holding cell, along with all their just in case toxic waste and everything else that they brought. All sorts of strange things that they truck in when they have these emergencies. But anyway, here they are.
People overpack when they're going on a trip, you know?
They don't know what they need. Exactly. So, yeah, it's one of these things where it's like, I don't know. I guess it's a thing where they're still here. They're trusting him. Mjolnir is still not very far, but I feel like that moment that they had with him seeing that he couldn't move it, I guess that Coulson just feels confident that, you know what, I don't think this guy's going anywhere at this point. I guess that's my read on it. All right, well, when we kind of get to the end of this minute, we're still in the middle of this conversation as Coulson is talking to him. And by the way, Coulson's hair is looking great. He obviously dried it off finally after looking like a wet rat earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But do you all have any other comments or points you want to bring up about this particular minute?
Well, I want to talk about Sitwell, but I know that would take us way too much of a divergence, plus spoiling things for the future. But I do like the fact that when they're doing that push through all the things, you can see Mjolnir on one of the monitors, and it is still emitting radiation, or it's still putting out heat, like whatever it is they have on there. Mjolnir's still hot.
Yeah.
So, like so even though it's been sitting out in the rain now for all the time, like it's still, so they know that there's way more to it than just like an immovable hammer. There's way more going on there. I think that was a nice little touch they just put in on the side.
Well, and I love that whole push through too. Like you said, the Dutch angle, he's in silhouette, so he's a shadow of himself. Like all of that.
Right.
We didn't note the Dell XPS 24M featuring a 24-inch IPS display with active matrix pixel refresh that's in the upper right corner. I made that up, Matthew. I made that up. I have no idea what monitors these are. Jeez, for crying out loud.
Oh, it's good stuff.
One day you will have these BS skills.
I was a pastor for many years, please. I have a lot of BS skills. And Andy and Pete just got a lot of angry tweets, but that's not my problem. Guys, it's been so good having you both on. Kyle, tell us a little bit more about the radio drama, the podcast drama that you've been doing.
My show I created is called The Swashbuckling Ladies Debate Society. It is about a married lesbian couple in 1900s France fighting evil. So it's sort of people think pirate, but it's a much more musketeer-y kind of thing. So they're using their swords and their words to try and defeat them. And I have all sorts of really bizarre super villains like Lord Buxton Blue, and there's an evil chef. I mean, like it's silly and fun and hopefully heartwarming as well.
Awesome. Well, definitely check that out. Check out all the stuff that both these guys did on the older seasons of Marvel Movie Minute. Thank you to both of you. Thank you, Andy, for all that you're doing. And thank you most of all to the fans. You all are what makes this all possible. Let us know what you think. Keep the feedback coming. And most importantly, have a great day.
Until next time, true believers.
Marvel Movie Minute is a production of True Story FM, engineering by Andy Nelson. This season's music is One Last Ride by Martin Puringer. Find the show at truestory.fm. And if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, consider doing that for this show.